That's so brilliant. This video is sponsored by Photrus. Yeah, you laugh, but these photographers really exist. They shoot outdoors, they change their lenses out in the field, but they never clean their sensors. Now, the problem with dirt in general is it gets more and more resistant over time. Because it's not only the dust, there's always coming a little bit of moisture into the game. And dust and moisture, that's not a good combination, I have to say. So in this video, I will tell you how to protect your camera from a situation like that. I will show you a simple cleaning hack I do all the time, and I will tell you what you should do, if you really didn't clean your sensor for a longer period. My friends, very nice to see you. You know, the camera sensor is probably the most important thing in our camera. I mean, it's the interface between light and the electronic data that lead to an image in there. When we break it down, it is like the retina in our eyes, and that's a thing we should really care about, right? And first of all, one thing that gets so often misunderstood. I often hear photographers saying, you know, when they are looking at their images or so, oh man, it's time to clean your sensor. Just look, there are so many sensor spots in your image. And I have to say, in most of the cases, that's completely wrong. Not every dust spot is a sensor spot. And that's the good news. Most of the dust spots are caused by dust on the lens. And the difference is quite easy to see, by the way. If a dust spot is just subtle, it is very likely that it is just dust on your lens. But if it is more, you know, really dark and with lots of contrast, that it looks that there would be a hole into a sensor or so because it's really dark, that it's definitely a dust spot on your sensor. Okay, I would say let's start with how to avoid dust spots. Now it's quite easy to keep your lenses clean. I use a blower like this here, also a brush. And I do the same with filters, and I can really keep that clean all the time with that. That's a way to avoid dust spots on your lens. But for a sensor, we have to consider a little bit more, I have to say. Most photographers are super careful when they change their lenses. They consider the direction of the wind, so that there doesn't get dust blown into the sensors. They consider precipitation and protect the sensors by leaning over the cameras, you know, while changing lenses, so that, you know, the bodies get wet, but not the sensors. And that's all good. But now here comes the shock. That doesn't protect your sensor from dust spots, at least not completely. What I found out over the years is sensor dust doesn't occur while I'm changing lenses. There's another way how it gets there on the sensor. And it took me so long to realize that, to be honest. Now, when I'm out in the field, what I always did is I took the rear caps off of my lenses and I put it into my bag or into my pocket. And inside these rear caps, the dust gets literally collected, especially at the corners here. That's crazy. And also the rear side of the lenses, of course, get dirty when I have them in my bag because I don't have time to close it or so. I just put it into my bag without. And now guess what happens when I mount a dirty, dusty lens like that onto my camera. All the dirt, all the dust that is in here will find its way on the sensor, and that will happy dust images are the result. And as soon as I changed my behavior out in the field, just a little bit actually, as soon as I started to care about the rear side of my lenses and especially the rear caps, I got almost completely rid of sensor spots. And one more thing I do is, from time to time out in the field, when I'm changing lenses, you know, I just take my blower and blow in like that into my sensor. Also on the rear side, I don't forget this one. And then I change the lenses. Or it's really easy to keep my sensor clean from dust all the time. That's really super easy, isn't it? So there's never any dust that could jump over from the lens to the sensor. Important is just, you shouldn't do that when it's raining or when there's snowfall, of course. But when the weather is okay and you think about that out in the field, that's a good tip as well. Always use also the blower to blow a little bit into the sensor and so. Okay, so before I will show you a simple cleaning hack for your sensor and what you should do if you haven't cleaned your sensor for a longer time. And friends, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You know, it really helps me to get this video better visible to other photographers on YouTube as well. Thank you therefore. Okay, so now we know how to avoid sensor spots, but from time to time we have any way to clean our sensor, right? The question is just how often? Well, in my analog times in the 1990s, there was no sensor in my camera I had to clean, obviously. The film roll was always exchanged, so dust was no issue at all. The only thing I did is I cleaned my mirror from time to time. Yeah, and actually that was just done by a blower. It's the same as we do with the mirror, with the mirrorless cameras today of a sensor. Sometimes I also used a towel therefore, but honestly, that was not all too often necessary. Things changed as soon as I changed to digital photography, and when I bought my first digital camera, I got whipped with these cleaning kits here out of such as Swamp and Chemistry. And I cleaned my sensor once a month or so, just to have a clean sensor. But as I found the already mentioned way to avoid dust, I started to ask myself if that high frequency of cleaning is really necessary. So I tried out what would happen if I stopped cleaning my sensors. And that said, it doesn't work completely without cleaning. But I found out that I don't need chemistry at all to clean my sensor. I found out something different. Today, I use this brush here. And that's a really super clever thing, much easier than using chemistry, much faster, and I can clean my sensor even out in the field quickly if it is necessary. I have it always in my bag, and the only thing I have to do is I take a blower and I blow towards the brush, like that. And as you can see, I hope you can see that, by that all the bristles of the brush start to rub against each other and the brush gets statically charged. Might sound complicated, but it's super simple. From now on, it's a dust magnet. And all I have to do now is I take my camera and that's an APS-C brush. This is a full frame camera, so good Christian that you have taken the right things. Doesn't really matter, I can anyway show it. The full frame brush is a little bit wider than this, but doesn't really matter. I just have to move it towards the sensor and I just move it over. I don't touch, I just move. And again, it's a dust magnet now. Everything that happens is the dust from the sensor is jumping over to the brush. How easy is that? I will put a link down in the description for more details about this brush. I'm not sponsored or so, by the way, although I don't know which difference that would make. It's really a good dip, this brush. And due to the rear cap trick I mentioned already, I use this brush maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So just when there's really dust spots on my sensor. And that's not very often the case anymore. The sensor of this camera here, it's my Sony A7R4, was never cleaned with chemistry, I have to say. And I use it already for almost 4 years or so. And the sensor of this one here was cleaned maybe 6 years ago with chemistry, and after that I just used the brush. Crazy, isn't it? I think I never used a chemistry-based cleaner anymore since then. It's not really necessary. And I change my lenses in almost every weather conditions: rain, snowfall, wind. Well, now we know how to avoid dust, we know how to clean our sensor, but what if we haven't cleaned our sensor for quite a long time, so that there's really persistent dirt on our sensor? And as I already mentioned, if you take care, it isn't really necessary to clean your sensor all too often. But in case there's anywhere a sensor spot, I don't get down anymore by using my brush or so. You could use chemistry, of course, it's always possible, but what I do is, I simply move that brush after I have blown at it, just with a little bit of pressure. That's important. I don't overdo it. I mean, we don't really touch the sensor. Actually, there is an IR filter sitting on the sensor, so we don't damage it. I mean, there's always any way to damage anything. It's just a question of pressure or so. So we always have to be super careful when we cleaning our sensor or so. But moving the brush that close is something I don't do all too often, I have to say. That's necessary maybe, I would say, once a year maybe or so. Not all too often. Depends always on how you photograph, where you change lenses in which weather situations. But if also that wouldn't work, we can always use chemistry as the last instance, of course. But again, that wasn't necessary for me for multiple years now on several cameras. So if you care about the rear side of your lenses, nothing happens if you don't clear your sensor for a longer period. The brush is a really good hack, I have to say. although it's not really a hack, it's just a brush. Yeah, the only camera hack I know, by the way, that's really good, that is that one that leads to sharper image on a long lens. I will put you a link here to a video that's super simple but really powerful. Friends, I hope you liked this video. If yes, share it with your friends, and thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.